Welcome to the external task support for grade C. You will find that here we do not have the guidance for what it says for describe, but if you just feature the aspects of description where you are telling what something is and being able to elaborate, that should be allowing you to do your grade Cs. Please ensure you have your title of C1, describe how your underpinning knowledge of relevant theory, philosophical approach, legislation or report enables you to understand the key issues in D1, and you have the title of C2, describe the relevant values, principles or standards that relate to the theme, and finally you have your title for C3, which is show evidence of reading or use of sources with referencing relevant to the description. If we look at your C1, you are being asked for, it says, learners must identify at least one theory. So this means you have to consider, have you covered any theories in relation to communication? Do consider if there have been any theories that you have covered in relation to communication within health and social care. If so, pick the one that you feel most confident with and use it to describe how this relates to the key issues that you stated in your D1. You could also consider any philosophical approaches that you have covered. Furthermore, you may also consider to think about a key piece of legislation which is very, very important in the aspect of communication. Which piece of legislation have you covered that you can describe that it relates to the key issues that you discussed in D1? Finally, you have the aspect whereby there may be some reports that you have looked at and you would like to describe those in relation to the key issues that you raised in D1. It does state that learners must identify at least one theory, philosophical approach, piece of legislation or report. So I would suggest that you do make sure that perhaps you cover at least one theory and at least one piece of legislation that helps to understand the key issues in communication. When it comes to C2, it is asking the learner to identify and give information about relevant values, principles, or standards that relate to the theme. Now, do go back to all the units you have covered and consider what is meant by values within health and social care and what might be useful to explain communication. What is meant by principles? Are there any underlying principles in health and social care that could help to explain communication? Or have you come across any standards that relate to the theme of communication? One area that I would suggest that you cover is either you pick 3 values, 3 principles, or 3 standards, or you pick 1 value, 1 principle, or standard, or a variety of different ones. Do remember this is your C grade and you want to make sure that you have enough to say, however you do not end up spending all of your word count in this area. There is the suggestion this can be demonstrated through the use of examples from practice. Of course, when you have given your information and identified it, it is important that you provide some examples from practice. Practice meaning where can it be within the health and social care setting of work. So for example, within nursing, within teaching, within social work, within care homes or care communities. It does say use of words such as because will help to support the description. This is a good way to be able to explain why it is that you're describing these values, principles, and standards and how they go about explaining the issue or the theme of communication. Finally, do not forget that you are expected to have 2 identifiable quotes and reference of the quotes within each criteria, such as 2 for C1 and 2 for C2, but whatever quotes you have used, both embedded quotes as well as referencing in text, you must have again in your C3. Do not forget to add them within your C3 category because that is your reference page for each of the grade descriptors. Thank you very much and see you again soon.